Hello, everyone. This week, for our discussion on the fundamentalist modernist controversy, I've decided to research Pearl S. Buck. As always, historians must be objective and honest in their investigations, and this is what I've tried to do. First, when I decided to research Pearl S. Buck, I just wanted to take a look at her life, and I read an article entitled Pearl S. Buck by Dorothy Rempowski. Buck was born in West Virginia. Her parents were Presbyterian missionaries to China, so they quickly went back over to China, where she was brought up and she was homeschooled. And then she did return to the U.S. to attend college, but went back to China in 1914. In her early years, she married. She had a daughter who had some special needs. They ended up adopting some children as well. But while in China, she did go through a few different rough events, was dislocated for a while, but she ended up leaving China in the early 1930s. She did eventually divorce and remarry, and most people now know her as the author of the book Good Earth. Now, within that time, she did become a very controversial figure in the fundamentalist modernist debate, and that's what I want to focus on. Grant Wacker wrote Pearl S. Buck and the Waning of the Missionary Impulse, and that's one of our readings this week. But in this article, he describes the three phases that she really went through in her life, focusing a bit on, when she became controversial. So the first phase he mentions is the 1910s when she was in missions. She was in China. She professed to be a Christian, looked to her faith for answers. And then the second phase really took place in the 1920s and the 1930s. And it became very evident that she started to feel that missionaries focused too much on saving souls and not enough on meeting physical needs. And so she felt at conflict with some of that. She felt missionaries were trying too much to change Chinese culture, and she didn't see it as needing to be changed. She felt that Western ways were seen as superior. And she started making a lot of these thoughts very public, making public comments about Christianity, its rituals being narrow and superstitious. And she eventually came publicly to say that she hated missions, and she called it ineffective. Then the third phase was the 1940s and on, where she wrote many more books and just stopped affiliating with any sort of religious group or organization. But during that very controversial time, it became very evident that she was leaning away from the organizations that she was part of. I looked up a couple of news articles, one from the New York Times entitled Mrs. Buck Resigns her Mission Post. And this described her resigning, and said she was resigning due to doctrinal and theological differences, and that she was doing it to save the Board of Foreign Missions from embarrassment. But it seemed the author of this, had some thoughts about whether it was her choice or not. It noted that she had been very critical of other missionaries as well, and it even referred to a rift that had come between her and Dr. Macon due to doctrinal differences, and that he basically contended that she did not consider the belief in the deity of Christ as essential, that she did not believe in the miracles of Christ from the New Testament, that she did not believe in original sin. A lot of what we consider those fundamentals of faith, he was saying that she no longer believed in. And as we know, was starting to publicly comment on not caring for missions at all. Another article from the New York Times, issue of Pearl Buck's resignation faces Presbyterian General Assembly Thursday, talks a little bit more. It's a couple weeks down the line after that about the conflict that's being caused because of it. The person who wrote it talks about how members of the board are liberals in their theology, and there's other missionaries in the field that were not Orthodox at the time, that were affiliated with this Board of Foreign Missions. And it even mentions another member that was resigning due to the resignation of Pearl S. Buck. So it caused quite the controversy. And for a missionary who was well known, to start coming out and saying that missions together is wrong, and that, eventually just not affiliating with Christianity at all. But she became a very controversial figure during this time, and in this fundamentalist modernist debate. Thank you.